Hello and welcome to CGIU's Commitment to Action curriculum. This is Module 1, Beyond CGIU's Application, laying the groundwork for your commitment to action. Today, our focus will be Project Management 101. My name is Vinny Johl, and I am a CGIU Commitment Mentor. On the screen, you'll see some of my favorite images from CGIU over the years. I've been involved with CGIU since 2010. I was a CGIU commitment maker, a CGIU mentor, and a CGIU ambassador. During the day, I'm a hospital administrator. I focus on the patient experience and patient satisfaction in hospital settings. I implement several projects throughout the year. I focus on projects that are based on specific units and teams, as well as implementing projects that are on a larger organizational scale. So all of you have successfully been accepted to CGIU and have a commitment to action. So now what? Now comes time for us to really roll up our sleeves and get to work. One of the things that we will focus on today is project management and how to get your project off the ground while building a successful team. So what is project management? Project management is a practice of initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and managing the work of a team to achieve specific goals and meet specific success criteria at the specified time. The main challenge of project management is to achieve all project goals within given limitations. And what are limitations? Limitations tend to be resource-based, so they can be time, money, and capacity. Why is project management important? Project management is essential in implementing any project or commitment to action. And some of the reasons why are that it ensures that purpose, mission, goals, and vision of a project are maintained throughout the implementation process. It helps establish guidelines. It helps keep our projects, and more importantly, us as project leads and project managers on track. It also creates clarity and helps us develop a plan for resource utilization and optimization. Again, what are our resources? Are they people? Is it money? Is it time? Is it actual products? And how do we best utilize those to achieve our goals and get our commitments to action off the ground? The Project Management Institute, PMI, has identified 9 areas of importance in project management, and they focus around integration management, scope management, time management, cost management, quality management, human resource management, communication management, risk management, and procurement management. We're going to touch on all of these today, but we're really going to focus on the human resource aspect and communication management. So before we get started with project management, there's a couple of things that we have to take into consideration and really think about. The first is we really want to make sure that we've clearly identified our project. And the second is that we've clearly defined our project goals and the objectives for our project. Why are we even doing this? The third is that we identify any stakeholders. Now, stakeholders aren't just the people that are working on your project or that are going to benefit from your project. These are people, anyone that touches your project or might come into contact with your project. For me, I created a campus garden at the University of Pacific in Stockton, California. So my stakeholders not only included those students that would be working in the garden and planting crops in the garden, but it also included the others in the university. So faculty, staff that were walking by, groundskeepers, the community in general that would be visiting the garden. Stakeholders are anyone that will interact with your project, and that's really important to keep in mind. The next thing that we need to do is, now that we've identified our project, we've defined our goals, we really have to define our tasks. How do we accomplish our goals, and how do we meet the objectives of our commitment to action? The next thing that you really want to do is build your team. Getting a commitment to action off the ground alone is very, very difficult. The best way to get a commitment to action off the ground, or any project off the ground, is to create a team. And we're going to focus a lot on this today and what it takes to build a successful team. The next thing to really think about as you're implementing your project and thinking about managing the next steps is being aware of any project killers. These are obstacles that might come into place. These are things that might derail your project. And what we want to do is be aware of those proactively so that we're not reactive when it comes to these obstacles that show up. The next thing that you want to do is create a timeline. How are we going to do all the things that we said we were going to do in the steps above? And when are we going to do them? This is important to look at when is feasible and what times actually work. The next thing is once you've got your timeline, you've got your project mapped out, you know exactly what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and who's going to do it, is to get feedback. And you don't just want to get feedback from the team that's working on the project. You really want to take this out and get feedback from all of your stakeholders. Those are those people up here in this bucket who we identified. Who else can come into contact with your project? The other thing you might want to consider is, can we get feedback from someone who is not impacted at all from our project and really brings a neutral perspective to the project? Now, once you've got all your feedback, you're going to go back to your plan and you're going to adjust according to the feedback you received. One thing to consider is the more people you reach out to feedback for, the more people that are going to give you opinions. And you as a project manager and the lead of this project, it's really your responsibility to determine what aspects of the feedback you're going to take into consideration and what aspects you might leave out, because you can't always change everything for everyone. And being secure in what changes you're going to make based on the feedback that you receive. There are several different tools that are out there that will help you manage your project. And I have highlighted 4 of my favorites that are actually free to use. The first is Excel. Excel has a lot of benefits because it's easily accessible. Most people have it on their computer. Most people have already used it in some capacity or another. And it really is simple to use. And the next is Google Docs. Google Docs is great because it's a living document. And you can make real-time changes. People can see them from a variety of different locations. Not everyone has to be sitting around the same document. And you always have the most up-to-date document available. So Google Docs is really great for that. Some of the others are Backlog and Slack. And those are 2 that are also free to use within a certain capacity. And then there's add-ons that you can pay for. But I really do think that most of the stuff that you guys are working on with your commitment to action, you guys can get done in Excel and Google Docs. And the benefit to the 2 of those is really that there's no or limited training that you will need to do when you start moving your projects forward. So we've talked a little bit about teams and how important teams are. So let's talk about what it looks like to build your team. In order for a team to be successful, we want to make sure that the team is diverse and well-rounded. You want to bring together people who don't know each other to really ensure success of your project and control the drama. The one thing that you don't want to do is bring together a group of people that are very, very connected to one another. You want what will entail happen is if you bring together a lot of people that are really familiar with each other, they know each other, they're similar in their backgrounds, it's going to create a little bit of drama. And you as a project manager are going to have to be able to deal with team dynamics. If you start with a clear slate and people don't know each other, they're going to learn to work together and you're really going to form as a team. The next thing that you want to do once you've established your team is really set expectations. Is this a get your hands free team or a board? Or is this an oversight board, right? You want to really establish those goals and be really clear with your team on what the expectations are. So since most of you on this call are students, start looking at who you want to be on your team. It's always a good idea to have an attorney or a law student on board, a doctor, a medical, or someone with a science background, someone in local government or studying local government, a legal expert, whether that's a lawyer or a law student. You also want to have someone who has a little bit of an accounting or a finance background. And these are people that are going to help you with keeping the books and helping keep your financial deliverables on track. The most important thing to think about is what are your opportunities as a project manager or as an individual, right? For me, it really is someone who, one of my biggest opportunities is around accounting and finance. I'm not that great with the numbers. I find it hard to keep track of expenses. And so I'm really going to need a strong partner and someone who can help me do that. And clearly identify and seek people who are good at the things that you're not good at. That is going to lead to the ultimate success of your project. The next thing that you want to do is find someone who knows everyone and is well liked and respected in your community. And you're going to have this person on your board to really help gain momentum and help gain traction and get a little bit of attention to to the project that you're working on. The next is probably the most important person. You want to have representation from the community that you serve. This is really, really important for us. You want to make sure that if you are creating a project that is going to help a certain population of people, that you have someone from that population representing the project itself. So by now, the next step is planning your meetings. You've got your team in place, you've established who's on the team, but now what we need to do is make sure that we have planned meetings and that they're regular. What is the frequency that you want your meetings to occur at? How formal will they be? Whether or not you'll hold your meetings in person, virtually, or both. The other thing to really think about is how will the team share and collaborate documents? Again, Google Docs is really great for this. People can be working on the same document in different locations and get updated spreadsheets in real time. The other thing that you want to think about is where will the documents be stored and how will they be controlled? The next thing to really think about is what are the workflows and decisions for approval that your board or your meetings, your team will have to go through in order to move forward. Other things for you to take into consideration are schedule and committing to meeting times. This is really, really important. We talked about planning regular meeting times, but how do we get everyone on board to commit to attending the meetings? And do you want to clearly define what the expectations are? The second thing is to be really, really flexible, and not just flexible in your meeting times or the tools that you use or your communication styles, but be flexible in every capacity. If you set milestones and timelines for your project and you don't meet them, that's okay. Use those as a learning lesson, be flexible, figure something else out, and move on to the next step. The next thing to really consider is communication. What is the best means of communication for you and your team? Is it email? Is it text messaging? Is it utilizing an app like WhatsApp or Slack? And what is your team going to respond to best, right? So just because you respond really well to email does not mean that the rest of your team does. And so you're going to want to have the conversation with your team as you form what is the best way for us to communicate, and really take their suggestions into action and go with the consensus of the group. The next thing that you want to consider is there's going to be issues and concerns that come up along the way. How are you going to address them? What is going to be your approach? Is it going to be more of a democratic approach? Are you going to take the lead on this? What is your plan for addressing any road bumps that come along the way? And spend a lot of time thinking about this on your own. The next thing that you want to really consider is how are you going to be the most proactive program manager or project manager out there? How are you going to anticipate the needs of your team? How are you going to anticipate the needs of your project? And how are you going to anticipate potential obstacles? And what are you going to do to mitigate the risks of any potential obstacles that come into place? And finally, what you as a project manager really want to clearly define and consider is what are you going to celebrate? And when are you going to make celebrations? Is it at every milestone? How are you going to define these milestones? And how are you going to celebrate? For teams working on projects, especially like commitments to action, the celebration piece is so huge when it comes to keeping momentum, keeping your team engaged, and really keeping your team motivated. A complete commitment to action may take several years, it may take a year, or it might take 6 months. And what we want to make sure is that we are celebrating every small win, because every step forward really is a win. And it's important to celebrate those wins with your teams. So really take that into consideration. The other thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't necessarily need to be a big, long, drawn out celebration. It can be little things, right? It could be a little outing. It could be a little, you bake cupcakes and bring them in, whatever works for you and your team. So really think about that. The motivation and engagement piece is huge when it comes to project management, because as soon as you lose motivation or engagement from your team, you're going to stall your project. So I have attached on the screen are examples of different project management tools. Project management tools can be very simple. I like the tools that are shown. If we look at the tool on the left-hand side, the work plan template, this is a really easy to follow phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 worksheet. And it really is intended to be a worksheet that you do with your team. What are the activities that you need to get done, right? What are the outcomes on the bottom that you need to produce from those activities? And how do we move forward? And you can fill these out, adapt these, and really work on them with your team. The event schedule planner, this is a really great way to, on a calendar, put out what is phase 1, what is phase 2, what is phase 3, 4, 5, and 6 for your commitment to action as you work through your project. And finally, the template on the bottom is one of my favorites. I think it's the most basic, it's the easiest to use, and it is so simple. And what it really shows is, what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? And what are the action steps? The only thing that I would add with the action steps is who's going to own these steps on your team? Who is it that is going to do all the work? A really important thing to consider as a project manager is not everything falls on you to complete. One of the things for you to really focus on is, how do you lead the team and delegate? We've created a team at this point, right? And you've got people that are stronger in areas where you might have some opportunities. And how do you leverage the people on your team to get your commitments to action off the ground and really move forward? So, after all that we've learned and talked about today, you are now a project manager. What this really means is that you are a true leader. It is your job to keep everything and everyone on task. It is your job to really have accountability of developing the plan, keeping the plan in place, maintaining your records, and figuring out what records you're even going to maintain and keep. Now, the not so fun part of being a leader is sometimes you have to be a firefighter. Issues are going to come up, and don't get discouraged when these issues come up. Talk through them with your team, talk through them with your mentors, talk through them, figure out what your plan of action is going to be. But there are going to be times where you're going to have to be a firefighter and come in and save the situation, regardless of what the situation might be. The next thing that's really important is you're also going to be expected to be a little bit of a cheerleader. You're going to be that person that is encouraging your team. You're going to rally the troops. You're going to be the one who's saying, good job, you've got this. I know you have this. Keep going, move forward. There will be a point when you are working on your commitment to action, more than likely, that you will want to give up. It's hard. You're in school, you've got finals, you've got all this other stuff that's going on. And then you have your commitment to action, and maybe your project got derailed. Maybe there was some obstacle that came up that you weren't anticipating, and your team is going to get discouraged, and you're going to be discouraged, but it's your responsibility and your job to keep moving forward. Keep going, be that cheerleader, use it as a lesson learned, and keep motivation up by being that cheerleader. And then there's always the therapist aspect too as a leader. You're going to have people on your team that have issues or concerns, and they're going to come to you every single time they have an issue or they have a concern. They're going to look to you for advice, and they're going to look to you to help work through their problems and their issues and their concerns. And that's really what you're there to do. The next is the accountability police. As a leader and as a project manager, you become a little bit of the accountability police. And this starts really early on in the process when you have people on your team that you're looking to accomplish goals, and you need to determine, how are you going to hold your teams accountable? What are you going to do if someone misses a deadline or misses a step or does not follow through on the action that they said they were going to? How are you going to hold them accountable? But more so, how are you going to not have to hold them accountable? And as a project manager, you can do daily check-ins, weekly check-ins. You can put things into place that will allow you to make sure that nobody misses a deadline. Again, my name is Vinny Johl, and I'm one of your CGIU commitment mentors. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you might have. My email is vinnyjohl@gmail.com, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have or help you work through individual situations. And I hope that you have a great day, and thank you for listening along today.